Joe Burrow isn't just back. He is better than ever. It's the Week 9 NFL takeaways. Let's get it.
This is Renner Ranks, the ultimate NFL ranking show. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into today's episode of Renner Ranks, your go-to daily ranks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you to all the everydayers out there for making Renner Ranks your first listen. Although maybe last listen. This one's coming out a little later today. I had to grind a lot of tape. Very glad I did. A lot of good games out there. As always, I'm your host, Mike Renner, NFL draft analyst at The Messenger, at Mike Renner _ on social media. And today's podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. As I said, Week 9, NFL takeaways. A lot of good matchups, a lot of bad matchups. So we're going to focus on the good ones, the ones with playoff implications here, some takeaways from them, but there was a couple without really playoff implications that we do have to get to because some young quarterbacks are balling. Well, let's start with this. I teased it at the top. Joe Burrow, as I said, he's not only back healthy now after the bye, he is playing, I think, the best football I have seen from him is in his career over the past 2 weeks. And it's not only just, throw for throw. He looks like his arm is better, not only one, and he's quicker getting out of pressure. And that was a emphasis of his this offseason, was to get in better shape, was to get more agile, to be able to bring more of those scramble drills to the table. And obviously, pulling his calf, starting off the season with that injury, that was a non-factor. The guy couldn't move at all in the pocket. And so that was obviously weighing on him. But now back post-bye, no calf injury, 100% healthy. What he did to the 49ers last week, what he did to the Bills this week was there weren't misses. There was maybe a few throws he would want back from this game. I think two of the Chase throws, the downfield throws, the one, Chase still could have hauled in, but it was underthrown. One that was a little risky into double coverage. One bad screen, but that's it. 3 plays that he would want back over the course of an entire game against a defense like the Buffalo Bills. Now, in back-to-back weeks against top 10 defense, he goes in this game, 31 of 44, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. PFF had him with 4 big-time throws and a 91.1 overall grade. Last week, 28 of 32, 282 yards, 3 touchdowns, 88.6 overall grade by PFF, 3 big-time throws. Now, he did have the turnover where he played last week, didn't get picked off, but his only bad decision in 2 weeks against 2 of the better defenses in the NFL. Again, 2 top 10 defenses this year. And that's what Joe Burrow puts up. Man, he had to be pissed early on after that calf injury because, he's waiting probably all offseason. He looks a lot skinnier, kind of tooled his body. And now obviously, looks more spry when he's out in space, can actually run away from guys. And that was, a number of plays in this game against Buffalo Bills. He used that. He had to be pissed pulling that calf, and he just can't do a darn thing those first 6 games of the season, can't move at all. And now these past 2 weeks, you just see the difference. If you just take away every single play that Burrow kind of creates outside of structure where things aren't there, he has to get a little bit, gets creative, picks up, whatever yardage. You take all those away and you either turn them into sacks or incompletions. That's the difference. That's why they look like such cheeks the first, 4 or 5 weeks of the season offensively, is because you can't take that away from a guy. That's such a big part of the offense, especially when they are kind of a dink and dunk offense. This is not, they lull you to sleep with the passing game. They use the quick passing game as almost a surrogate for the running game there in Cincinnati, in that they just want the ball in Joe Burrow's hands, knowing that if we keep peppering those underneath passes, you're going to try to bring some safeties down into the box. You're going to try to crowd that area of the football field. Then we can attack you over the top. That's their game plan. And it's a good game plan when you have Joe Burrow healthy at the helm and when he can create. And now, obviously, we saw them take down 2 of the better teams in the NFL these past 2 weeks. And the Bengals look officially back, but they're still not the best team in the AFC North, which we will get to a little bit later. At number 4, we are going with one CJ Stroud. And Mr. Stroud, welcome to the franchise quarterback ranks. We had been talking about him kind of and such for a while now. Obviously, when you start your career with the most attempts without an interception of a rookie quarterback, you're probably going to get there, right? But I think this was the stamp that, hey, I'm not going to get there. I'm there. I am a franchise quarterback. You better talk about me as such. He goes for 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, he did throw a pick, was called back. One of his regrettable decisions on the day. Had a handful of, honestly, with all those stats they put up, probably had 4 or so throws that he wanted back. That could have been big plays in that game. But he also made, an insane amount of big-time throws in that game. The 2 touchdown passes to Tank Dell were outlandish. And Tank Dell, by the way, looks like an absolute stud. Him and Nico Collins, the Texans have a darn good 1-2 punch there. And 2 like very different types of wide receivers too, that they can put in different roles that, man, how they schemed it up against this Tampa Bay Bucs defense. They were, Bobby Slowick was in his bag in that game. And the 4th and 9 throw to Dalton Schultz on an out route, the anticipation to throw it before the break, absolutely outstanding. And so I want to read you now the list. So I said, CJ Stroud, franchise quarterback. I want to read you the list of quarterbacks since 2018. So over the past 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. To have 400 plus passing yards, 4 plus touchdowns, touchdown throws, and 0 interceptions in a game. It is Andrew Luck, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. It is the elites at the position. That is what it is. You don't get those stats by accident, right? You don't luck into, there's no Ryan Fitzpatrick putting up 404 TDs and 0 picks. Now, he did have some insane games. That's not the best one to go to. But there's no just like, oh, the guy had one game flash in the pan, fell off. No, you don't get to that level of what CJ Stroud just did to lead that comeback on that final drive the way he just did. Unless you got the goods, man. He's going to be freaking stud. I just love his eyes. I love the way he manipulates defenders, but not only manipulates defenders, but like the speed with which his eyes go between wide receivers. I think a lot of young quarterbacks, they'll either get real sticky with their eyes, they'll just lock on and not come off for their second read, or they'll just speed rush through their reads. They'll look at one guy and not give him the chance to get open. If he's not open, as soon as he looks at him, you go to the second one, and then you go to the third one, and you're just way out of whack. With CJ Stroud, he has the patience to know when a guy will come open and stick with him with his eyes, knowing that a window is going to get created. So for the Texans fans, absolute home run. Absolute home run. And that leads me into my third takeaway from this week. The AFC South right now, what if? We already have T-Law. We already have CJ Stroud, right? Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, 2 surefire franchise quarterbacks, stamp on it. Going to be top 10 players of their position, if not already. With T-Law, it is already. With CJ Stroud, debatable. After this past week, though, we probably should be talking about him in that sort of realm, right? But then not only them, but then Anthony Richardson with how he looked early on in his Indianapolis Colts career. Very unfortunate, that injury for him. We've discussed that. But then Will Levis, what he did in his first start, and then his second start on a short week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I was pretty impressed again. And now I know he tried to throw away the game like 3 times in that final drive. That's kind of, if you want to talk about Will Levis's toxic trait, it's that I think he's going to do that a lot. I think a lot of games are going to end with Will Levis interceptions for the Tennessee Titans on final drives. Like, he thinks he can put it in any window. And so he's going to learn that he can't. But also the play call they had for that last play, there was no chance. There were no windows to hit. So that was not really much he could do there. But, man, the pocket presence, the man has been under attack from a pressure perspective. So through 2 games now, 75 dropbacks. He's been under pressure 36 times. That's almost 50% of his dropbacks through 2 games. And for him to look even a modicum of competent would be a big win for a rookie quarterback. But he looks even better than that, man. He's making throws down the football field, 4 big-time throws in this Steelers game. PFF had him charted for. That there's something. Now, it's still rough around the edges, but there's very encouraging start for a guy who, is a second rounder. I get that A lot of people were higher on him. I was a lot higher on him than number 34 overall, but he still went number 34 overall. That guy isn't supposed to come in and look like he belongs. So AFC South could have a unique situation on their hands right now where every single quarterback 24 and under, all possibly franchise guys. That division will be a dogfight. That will be must-see TV if everything goes, trajectory keeps pointing up for all of these guys. That, it was probably like one of the worst divisions over the past 20 years. It's easily been like one of the least interesting divisions in the NFL, right? I mean, you went from Manning to Luck without really anyone, without the Titans, Texans, Jags finding like anyone until you got Deshaun Watson, obviously coming into the division, and then Ryan Tannehill. But like, still, the level of excitement for a lot of AFC South matchups, like they were must-see Thursday nights. It feels like every AFC South matchup is a Thursday night football special. They might actually be Sunday night football now. They might actually be some Monday night footballs, some AFC South matchups, which would be very cool for that division. Long overdue. All right, before we get to the next. These days, every potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. As you may have known, I had to go find a job here recently. I didn't use LinkedIn Jobs, but it would have been faster than all summer what I was doing, which is sitting on my hands hoping someone would offer me a job, which if I would have gone on LinkedIn Jobs, maybe would have got one quicker. Then add your job title with a purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. Spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, on to the top 2 takeaways from week 9 of the NFL season. My number 2 is that I think we may be back to defense winning championships. Because it's been a minute. We've gone 4 straight years now, where the Super Bowl champion has averaged 2.5 or more points per drive. And to put that in perspective, 2.5 more points per drive, there are only 3 teams in the NFL averaging 2.5 more points per drive right now. So basically 4 straight years of high-end offenses winning Super Bowls. It with the sort of spread with how good offenses can be in the NFL versus like average, there's just more of a spread on offense. So like better offensive teams have won of late. You have to go back to like the 2015 Denver Broncos, obviously 2016 Super Bowl, the last team where it was legitimately like carried by a defense, right? The Patriots in there, some of those teams didn't have elite offenses, but they were all top 10 offenses, right? Like they were good offenses, maybe not 2.5 points per drive offenses, but they were at least balanced teams. I think this could be a year where we see a team win, whether it's, through wild card weekend, divisional round, through the championship, through the Super Bowl, off the backs of their defenses. This could be. And just because I think when we've seen top offenses, and obviously the ones that are, the Miami Dolphins this past weekend going to, and now it's a fluky game going to Germany, whatever. But the Chiefs held them to 14 points. They are the top offense in terms of points per drive in the NFL, averaging 2.8 points per drive. A good amount clear of number 2 in the NFL this year. But when they faced the Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, they scored 20 points, 17 points, 14 points. I think the top defenses have, I don't want to say figured out the top offenses, but they have more options. They have more answers nowadays than ever before. And so you look at the top 5 teams now in terms of points per drive against defensively. Baltimore Ravens, 1.11 points per drive. We'll get to here in a second again. Cleveland Browns, 1.19 points per drive against. Kansas City Chiefs, 1.4 points per drive against. the best figure in the Patrick Mahomes era, which is insane that the Chiefs defense is that good. New York Jets, 1.45. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars quietly at 1.49 points per drive against. Some of that scheduling related. We'll obviously get to see them against the 49ers this upcoming week to get a better handle on how their defense is. But I do think that the more and more we're seeing that there are no unstoppable offenses this year. The era of offenses that just roll into every game, roll out of bed, and 24-plus points, I think I don't want to say it's over. It's just there are none right now. Maybe there will be some here shortly in the coming years. Maybe it's just how the talents proliferate around the NFL right now is maybe more amassing on the defensive side of the ball versus the offensive side of the ball. Hard to say. But I do think with how multiple defenses have become, that they're not just sitting in figure-outable shells 24/7. And the ones that are not top 5 defenses in the NFL, right? They are getting there. They are the ones giving up the 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, right? So I do think this could be a year, or the first year, again, since 2015, that we see a defense win a championship, that a team wins because of their defense. And that brings us to the number one takeaway, which is the Baltimore Ravens are my Super Bowl pick right now. If I had to pick right now, gun against my head, and I have had to pick because I put some money on it earlier this week when they were 12-1 still. That was before this past week's game against the Seahawks. Just because watching their tape, this defense is insane. Aaron Schatz has them as the 3rd highest ranked team in DVOA, the Football Outsiders metric for overall team quality, through 9 games ever. And I think that goes back to like the start of the 90s. 3rd best team ever through 9 games. They have wins. They have the 3 probably most impressive wins on the season versus quality competition wins of anybody. They beat the Browns 28-3. They beat the Lions 38-6. And then they beat the Seahawks this past weekend 37-3. Those are 3 likely playoff teams at this point. I'd be very surprised if, the Browns may not. But the Lions and Seahawks with the NFC, the state of the NFC, they're making the playoffs. And they house them. Oh, my goodness. And they're just – I'm going to roll through a bunch of guys now on this defense because they're just – one, the Jadeveon Clowney signing. He looks as good as he's ever looked, maybe. $2.5 million they're paying him this year. He has a better PFF grade than Montez Sweat. He's been a monster against the run. And that's always kind of been his calling card. But even still, he is rushing the passer well. He's on pace to break his career, his highest. He has 39 pressures already. That is on pace to be more pressures than any season he's had in his NFL career. $2.5 million. And this is why, we talk about, the Montez Sweat deal, why people were asking why I was so down on it. It's a cap league. You have to use dollars more efficiently than other people. When you pay Montez Sweat what you did, and you give up a 2nd-round pick to do what you did, you're not using those dollars more efficiently. Maybe you're using them well. Maybe he's going to impact the field, but you're not going to use that. You're not going to use that $25 million a year. It's not going to be more efficient. You know what's more efficient? Jadeveon Clowney at $2.5 million a year. That is 10x more efficient if you're getting the same quality of play, which, again, I just said, Jadeveon Clowney, higher PFF grade than Montez Sweat this year. Massive one. Geno Stone, the safety, NFL pick leader, 6 picks. Another one this past weekend, Seattle Seahawks. I just brought him up to pump my chest because he was a 7th rounder and the 53rd ranked player on the PFF draft board, my draft board, coming out back in 2020. And now he leads the NFL in picks. Kyle Hamilton, on the other side, the other safety there, is an absolute pleasure to watch play the game of football. And Geno Stone, great instincts on the back end. That's why he gets his picks. Keep him on the back end because he reads routes extremely well. Kyle Hamilton, they put him all over. They put this guy in the line of scrimmage, and he can play the run like a linebacker. They put him in the slot, and he can go one-on-one against wide receivers. But mainly, he's kind of just a safety that flies downhill and covers on the ground. I think his combine testing and whatever the pre-draft was wildly overblown because it doesn't look like that on the football field at all. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. I'd probably put him as top 5 safety in the league. Gun to my head. And then these linebackers for the Baltimore Ravens. This is what like every defensive coordinator imagines when they're drafting these 4 or 5 linebackers in the first round. They're going to be sideline to sideline players. We're going to use them as blitzers. They're going to like be game changers. They almost never are. I do not advocate drafting linebackers in the first round. They almost never work out. But Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen right now are playing at a level that it makes you kind of buy in, right? When you got 2 guys that can cover as much ground as they do in the middle of that defense, truly going sideline to sideline with 2 linebackers that run low 4.5s, but also know what the heck they're doing. And they're put in a position to succeed. Obviously, Mike Macdonald, one of the best coordinators in football, defensive side of the ball. This defense is going to be a headache week in and week out. You're just not going to have consistent answers with how multiple they are, with how diverse they are on the back end, and just how talented they are. This defensive line goes so deep with just veterans, wily guys who know how to play the game. So you can't run on them. It's tough to pass on them, as Geno Smith found out. And yeah, this is, I called them the Eagles of the AFC. They would scare me more than the Eagles because, one, they're better at quarterback. Lamar Jackson's playing out of his mind this year. Now, Jalen Hurts is good, but I think we can all say Lamar is a little scarier than Jalen Hurts is. And they're better at coordinator right now, truly. I think the Eagles are missing their coordinators to a degree. Shane Steichen, Jonathan Gannon. That's not to say they're not still a darn good football team, but I'd take Todd Monken and Mike Macdonald all day, every day over what the Eagles bring out. So Ravens are my Super Bowl pick, man. This is a good team. AFC North dogfight. Going to be a lot of fun to track throughout the season. All right, before we get to upcoming episodes, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. That was it. The 5 takeaways. On the week that's coming up, we have Austin Gale on Thursday, per usual. But then we have Dane Brugler of The Athletic, the elite mind in the draft space, coming on. He just released his draft board, top 50 draft board, re-update over on The Athletic. Go check it out if you haven't. We're going to talk the cornerback class with him, maybe getting some more high-level stuff for this draft too. I can't just have him on just to talk cornerbacks. When you get Dane Brugler on, you got to pick his brain about everything. And then we're going to do a little awards because we're at the midseason, some rookies over the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. What a week 9 it was. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe if you feel so inclined. Until next time, Renner Ranks.